Okay, in this section we're going to look at setting up microphones and microphone placement for a few common sound sources or instruments. We'll mic up a vocal, we'll mic a guitar amp, and then we'll put a few mics on a drum set. And this will just give you kind of a general idea of where to start when you're trying to mic these different sounds. There's a few rules that I kind of like to think of and tell people to go by when they start to think about microphone placement. And the first is that you have to listen to your sound source. So if you're using a guitar amp or you have an acoustic guitar or there's a singer, try and get around that sound source in the room it's in and listen and move your head around in the environment and see how the sound changes based on where you are. If you get to know that sound, you'll make better choices about where to put the microphone and what microphone to use. But the second rule is that there really aren't any other rules or magic tricks. You know, these placements I'm going to show you, these are just starting points of put the microphone here to start, try this kind of microphone to start, but you have to experiment. And different amplifiers, different drum sets, different microphones all have different characteristics. So you don't just set it up and go. You always kind of have to set it up, listen, and make some decisions. And that leads us kind of like to the third rule, and that's to trust your ears. Ironic that it's a rule when there's no rules, but let's call it more like advice. But trust your ears and experiment. Move microphones around. Listen to how things sound from different locations. And also, if you have more than one microphone, don't be afraid. Actually, I encourage that you A/B them, which means set two microphones up on the same sound source, plug them into your board, record them, listen to them, play them back, and see how the different types of microphones pick up the same sound source differently. This will make you familiar with how your microphones work, and that'll really help in the long run. It'll make you make decisions quicker and kind of more informed, in a more informed way when you're setting them up for other projects. So first we're going to talk about vocals. Okay, here I have a large diaphragm condenser microphone, which I'm going to use to record vocals. The diaphragm is about here. It picks up in a cardioid pattern. That's the way I have it set for me right now, picking up around this way. So initially when you first set this up, you want that diaphragm to be at about the height of your mouth. This is for starters. Then you want to place yourself or the singer about 6 to 8 inches from the screen of the microphone or where the diaphragm is. So you start with that. Get your levels, set things, start to record. If you're getting plosives like the P's and the B's that pop, grab a windscreen, which is that nylon around a hoop, and you can place it about 2 inches, right about here, like that, in front of the microphone. You don't want to place it right up against it. You want to give it a little bit of room between there, at least 1 inch between the microphone and the pop screen. Or sometimes they call them a popper stopper. So that's the first thing you want to do. Then set your levels again. It might be a little bit quieter, but hopefully it'll just have taken care of the plosives, the P's and the B's. The next thing you want to do is listen to the sound of the singer. If you want to get a little bit more bass out of that voice, if you want to use that, you can have them actually move closer, shorten the distance to take advantage of the proximity effect, which essentially means they'll be picking up more bass frequencies, and so they'll kind of get a smoother, bassier tone. If you don't want that, if they're too bassy, you can actually back them off and have them stand farther back from the microphone. The other thing you can do, if you don't like some of the tone, sometimes if things are too bright or you hear a little bit too much like the wetness of the lips, a little bit too much smacking, you can actually change the axis or the angle of the direction of the microphone to the sound source, to my mouth. So you could turn the microphone itself off axis a little bit so it's picking up in this direction, and now I'm addressing it from the side. That'll actually reduce some of the bright stuff. If you hear a lot of that kind of wet mouth, lip smacking stuff, that'll help. You'll also lose a little bit of, some of the nicer frequencies too, so it's a bit of a trade-off, but that's a way to kind of make something that's kind of bright and nasty a little bit smoother. Also, if the voice is really nasally, you can move the microphone itself up, which would be kind of like this, above kind of the nose line, and that will reduce some of the nasal sound of the voice. And those are more or less the tricks you can use when it comes to vocal microphones. The other thing, if you're going to use vocals live, I have a microphone here that I would use, which is the SM58. And if you're doing live vocals, or you can use this to record as well, it won't pick things up as well. If you've got a punk rock singer, use this microphone instead of the condenser, if they like to scream a lot or yell. And sometimes if you have rappers doing a lot of kind of plosive pop, 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 pop stuff, a microphone like this will work well too, because it handles those louder sounds better, and so those types of vocals are louder. Live, though, you want it same situation, pointed more or less right at your mouth. And again, you can do the same things kind of to change the tonality with the access, aim it above for a little bit less nasal stuff. The main thing is to get it, in the live situation, is to be close as you can. Sometimes you'll have people right on it. Really, an inch or two is ideal. But in live, people are moving, and so that's going to vary. But just try and get people close. You just can't usually sing from this far away. If you have a guitar, sometimes you have to, but lean in if you can. So that does it for vocals. Now let's talk about miking up a guitar.